3, 2. Hey everyone, welcome to the Roundtable with Vienna Whyte, Season 1, Episode 46. I'm your host, Millie Rouge from the band Vienna Whyte here in Edmonton, Canada. This Roundtable is a Yagi Music production. I want to thank you all for tuning into the show this afternoon. I want to introduce you to our very first guest, which is T.Thomason, who is based in Toronto/Nova Scotia. We also have our other guest, Jaclyn Reinhart, based in New Brunswick. So welcome everybody today. My first question for you is, how has your weekend been so far? It's a very hard question.
Jaclyn, you've had an eventful weekend.
Yeah,
I did. Luckily, I had a little scare with my daughter yesterday. She woke up with some very, very difficult pains and nauseous, and we went to the hospital and spent about 8 hours there for them to discover that she had a kidney stone. So that was not fun, but I was very relieved that she's okay. It's pretty minor, actually. It's just very painful. So anyway, I had big plans to record my demos for the new album, so I didn't end up getting anything done yesterday, but that's okay because I'll get it done. Nobody's in any hurry here.
No, you got lots of time.
It's been a beautiful weekend other than that.
That's amazing. And how about yourself, T.Thomason? How's your weekend kind of been so far?
Good. Yeah, it's good. I put out a single on Friday with 3MA, which is really exciting.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it was great. We got like 5,000 Spotify streams in the first day, which I was very excited about. Yeah.
Congratulations.
That was great. Thank you. Yeah. And then otherwise though, like that's sort of like the light in the weekend, but honestly, I've been pretty caught up with the news and just feeling really, really emotional and sad for our friends of color and what's happening in the States. So I've been feeling pretty heavy, honestly, all weekend.
Yeah, it's hard to, I've had such a sunny, like bright, beautiful weekend, but it's hard to feel like completely like, oh, life's great, because there's so many things, that go on in the news and in your head, and you're just kind of like, oh my gosh, how do I live as a human being? This is difficult. I'm not even working, but how do I live? This is too difficult right now. I totally understand. That actually reminded me of a question. You said Ria May. Is she the Canadian singer-songwriter?
Yeah.
Who sings, I can't think of a song she sings right now, but I've heard her.
Band, yeah.
Yeah, that's so awesome. That's really cool. I love that. That's amazing.
Funny, you know what? T, it's so awesome that I'm on here with you because I was listening to the CBC just yesterday driving and Loser came on.
Oh, great.
And it was weird because I heard Ria May and I was like, but I didn't know that you did a collab with her on that version. And I was like, God, why does he sound so much like Ria May right now? And I was like, I listened to the end of it and I was like, oh, well, that makes sense because she's actually on it.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's fantastic. Well, it sounds like you both have had a very eventful weekend for sure.
Yeah.
So let's jump into kind of talking about your musical careers now. I want to kind of talk about your journey of how you got to where you are today. So T, can you start it off? I kind of want to hear just kind of how you started with music and kind of to where you evolved to where you are today in about 2 to 3 minutes if you can.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, I started playing music when I was like 12, and then I put out my first record when I was 13, and I put out 3 albums between the ages of like 14 and 19.
Wow.
And then I took a break, and in that time I was from Nova Scotia originally. I moved to Toronto, when I got a bit older, and then I took a break for about a year, and I went away from music, and I went through a lot personally, and I came back to it, and I had changed my name and my pronouns and gone through testosterone hormone therapy, and my voice had changed and all that. So those albums are under a different name, and now I'm moving forward as T.Thomason, and so I started putting out stuff again, and then a few years into that kind of new artist identity and new personal identity, I was on a TV show called The Launch with CTV.
Oh, nice. That's awesome. I did not know that. I didn't see that on your Instagram anywhere.
yeah, that was it was a year ago, but
cool.
Yeah, but I won my episode of The Launch and put out a song with Big Machine label group.
Nice. Yes.
Yeah, and that was really exciting, and then that kind of, I had been working on an album, my first full length, and as T, and that kind of got put on the back burner to do that show, and so in September the record came out, and now Loser Part 2 is part of this Part 2 project that I'm rolling out with doing reimaginings of songs from the album with artists who kind of mentored me and were really supportive through this change and through the creation of this album and everything, and being on the launch and everything. So
That's
so
cool.
the short version of.
Amazing. A few questions I have for you then. Was this filmed in Toronto, the launch, or was it elsewhere? Okay. And then did you actually fly to Nashville to record with Big Machine, or were you still in Toronto?
No, so the concept of the show is that you record the song, like they have 5 artists per episode, and then 2 get chosen to record a version of this song that they believe is a hit song.
Okay.
And you record the version with the guest producer on the show in under 24 hours, and then perform it for the mentors.
Oh, wow.
And they pick which version gets launched.
Yeah.
So it's all like in Toronto
that makes sense.
in the show. Yeah.
Okay, so Maddie Storfold from Edmonton then, because she was on the launch, so this all makes sense now. Okay, I was trying to figure out how you would have known her when I saw your photo. I was like, how do they but then that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Really cool. So who kind of, like, I know the guests, who were the celebrity judges / guests on the show when you were there?
For my episode, so Scott Borchetta and Mary May were kind of the overall mentors of the whole show. But on my episode, Sarah McLachlan and Alex Hope was the guest producer, and Alex is a young woman who just produced the new Tegan and Sarah album and the new Alanis Morissette single, and Troye Sivan and a bunch of people.
Yeah, I love him. He's great. That's so cool. Wow, I'm inspired. You just inspired me in 3 minutes. That was amazing. Now, Jaclyn, I want to hear about your musical career. I know you and T have already met before, but I want to hear more about you and kind of how you got into music yourself.
Well, I'm a bit of a late bloomer. I recorded my first album back in 2010 and released it in 2011. And that kind of got me some footing with the ECMAs and some different things like that. I showcased that year that I released it, and it was amazing. It was really fun in Charlottetown. And then, kind of got hungry for more. I really, honestly, it was a very authentic sort of, I just was interested in music. I liked it. I had no idea about the industry. I had no idea about what resources were available. I just, I was one of those people that I'm a self-taught guitar player. I'm also I was naturally good at singing, and I was never taught how to sing, and it actually caused a lot of vocal problems down the road. I found out later because I was playing 2 and 3 nights in a row, and I was like, why am I losing my voice? Anyway, so, I started realizing that there was a lot of professional development out there and a lot of help. And so, I really connected with like Music New Brunswick and the ECMAs and things like that. So, I've kind of like really slowly built my career, kind of, I want to say, like fumbling towards this whole goal of, being a professional musician. And then I did release another album in 2016. That was called Adventures. It was a full length where I flexed my 90s muscles, and it's very like, if you heard it, it's not what I'm doing now, but you know what? It was really, really fun. And it was kind of like the Foo Fighters and Jan Arden hung out with Sheryl Crow for a bit.
That's awesome.
So we had a lot of fun with it, but it's not really reflective of what I do anymore. At my core, I'm really a singer-songwriter. And so I've really tried to develop that part of myself. And that's how I met T, actually, because I did the SOCAN Songhouse in 2017. We had a lot of fun. Brad Roberts. I remember watching T. Sorry, I know this is about me, but I was like, man, this guy knows what he's doing. And I was like, I was just like, I was really in awe with a lot of the people. And Rachel Beck actually was in that too. That was great. So anyway, I feel like, my career sort of pulled me back to my singer-songwriter roots, and that's what the third album is going to be. It's more acoustic and things. So, and I've done some really awesome other professional development things. I spent some time in Toronto at Canada's Music Incubator, did the Artist Entrepreneur Program a couple of years ago. And that's how I met, I think, some of the people that we're connected with, like Riel and Rebecca Lapa. And awesome. So sorry, I'm just, watch. I need to pick up some of the names I just dropped. But anyway, so here I am, and I'm in the stages of recording my third album. Just successfully did another crowdfunding campaign back in March, mid-pandemic, which was incredible. And, have some grants and stuff like that. So I have some work to do, but I'm really excited for this new venture that I'm doing, which is another EP. So that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at, and just always learning.
Mm-hmm. With your crowdfunding you're doing, is that kind of for just aid with your album? Is that kind of the goal with that?
Yes. So I basically raised sort of half of the recording budget, and because I had a grant from Music New Brunswick to do part of it. And I did a really, really neat campaign, actually. I mean, it wasn't huge. I didn't go for anything crazy. It was just like $2,400. And I had soaps created for it. Because it was one of those, I could talk more about that if you want after, but I tried to come up with a different angle because a lot of people aren't buying CDs anymore.
Yeah, you have to find something unique for sure.
People want soap right now.
Right?
I know. They need it.
They're washing their hands. And so it became a conversation piece. And actually the biggest chunk of my revenue, the funding that came from that campaign was from the soaps. I mean, they cost me money to make, but I made more profit off of them than anything because I sold them. It was called Suds for Songs. So if you pledged a soap, you got the download of the album and you got a soap. So
that's amazing.
I kind of think I should leave them on as merch, but
you should. Yeah,
I might get more made, but we'll see. I want to get this album sort of. I'm really excited to dig into it and get the meat and potatoes of it, and then I'll look at marketing as I go because things kind of changed for all of us, didn't it?
Yes. Yeah. We're not really sure what to do with our lives for the next few months, but we're trying to find out what to do, but it's still a little bit iffy for sure. I totally understand that. My bandmate and I were kind of in the process of wanting to just start making an album. We said May 1st, quite a few months ago. So now we're like, we can't really go to any studios, so we can write the stuff.
Well,
I guess,
So I guess you guys don't probably, for those of you that don't know, I live in New Brunswick and we're actually in what we call a yellow phase right now. So we've opened up a lot of retail and like things are almost back to normal minus social distancing and masks and things like that. So actually we are in fact allowed to get into the studio as of right now. So I can go in at the end of June. But, that could change because we were supposed to record it the 1st of May. So
anyway, you never know.
So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. Well, that sounds like you got some really great things happening. So I'm very excited for you. And I can't wait to hear it, by the way, too.
Me too.
I feel that. So our topic for today is your music career experience. So I was looking at all of your Instagrams and I like to kind of find something that kind of has in common or like kind of like a theme. And all of you have this really incredible story or just kind of like message to your career. So I really want to kind of dive more into that. So my first question is, can you share a personal story or experience from when you were a child or when you were a young adult? It doesn't have to be like a child necessarily, but something that happened in your life that was the moment that sparked your interest in music. I think everyone kind of has that ding moment where you're like, I'm going to be a musician. So I kind of want to know what that moment was like for you. Jaclyn, can you start it off?
Sure. Well, again, back to the late bloomer thing. I was actually in my 20s and I'd always loved music as a kid, but I had a traumatic experience in the 8th grade where, those tapes that people would have 2 different keys and one side was one key and one side was the other. It was like the original karaoke. Anyway.
I don't know if I know that.
Okay, wait, I'm old. We won't talk about how old I am. I'm actually really old. So anyway, I just dated myself way too much there. But anyway, the person had put on the tape the wrong side and it was higher than I had practiced singing. And I got up to the microphone and I started to sing and what came out was okay, but I knew that those notes were going to start getting really, really high. And I said, I can't do this. And I left and I ran out of the gym and it was the worst moment of my life. And I didn't pick up an instrument or sing publicly for a really long time after that because I was so embarrassed and I was a really shy kid. Like I was always really happy and bubbly. I was always like, my self-confidence and I still struggle with that at my age that I won't mention. But so it wasn't until I sort of picked it up again. I had some friends and, I'd sing and they would comment on, how they liked my voice. And the one thing that I'll never forget, I was playing at a house party. It was university days and there was people that walked in the house and I had been singing and somebody goes, "That was you? We thought it was a CD." And I was like,
Hey.
oh my gosh. Like, I don't even remember what I was saying. It was probably a Sheryl Crow song or
Yeah.
something. But, so that was the point where I was like, maybe I am good enough. Maybe there is something here. And then I started sort of discovering it and performing more and stuff. So
That's awesome.
I really didn't do a whole lot until the last maybe like 12 or 13 years more professionally in the last 8 or 9. So
yeah, absolutely. How about yourself, T? What was kind of your moment where you got really inspired with music?
Yeah, I mean, I think I grew up in a really musical family. Both my parents are actors and writers and directors, and
cool.
they sing and play guitar and all that. And and my uncle was my music teacher in elementary school and stuff like that. So I think I was always, always loved music and always kind of used it as a way to express whatever it was that I was feeling. But I like really loved Avril Lavigne's first album, and I was probably in,
yes.
no, I don't know, however old, I think I was probably in grade 4 or 5 or something when it came out.
Yeah.
And she was so young, and she was like the first kind of young person that I became aware of doing it. And so that made me be like, oh, I want to do this and I can do this too. And she was sort of, kind of a tomboy, and I really related to that and thought it was so cool that she had this platform and stuff. And so then, I think even once I made my first record, when I was in the studio at 13, and then it was released at 14. And then once it was released and people started responding to it, it got a few Music Nova Scotia nominations, and it charted and on the radio in the East Coast and whatever. And that's when I think I was like, oh, like,
I can do this.
This is a thing. Okay. Like, and then it just kept happening. Like, things just kept happening. But I think maybe when I kind of dropped out of university and was like, I'm dropping out of university, I'm making an active choice. I think before then it just sort of felt like I was doing it for fun and things were happening, and that was really cool and exciting. But a lot of the work was being done by like grown-ups around me. And then, when I was 17 and was like, okay, I'm leaving, I'm not going to do this university thing. I'm going to do this. And my mom was sort of like, okay, if you're going to drop out of university, like, you're going to have to be, way more active in your career than you have been. Like, just because you're getting older, and like, that's just going to be a thing. So you have to be ready for that. And you're not going to, maybe you're going to be super successful immediately and rich and famous, but most likely you're going to be a working artist like me and your dad. So you have to be ready for the realities of that.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of there were a few different moments, I think.
Totally. No, that's really cool. I always love to hear when people have families that are also involved in music, because it definitely has a huge effect on you as a musician as well. So what would you say has been your most successful moment so far as you've been a musician? Jaclyn, I know you said you're a late bloomer, but what would you say so far has been your most successful moment that you've had in music where you're like, oh, damn, like I did that?
Well, I did get a chance to open for I Mother Earth a couple of years ago. And that was really, really cool, just because, they were one of my favorite bands growing up. And, I'm a 90s kid. I loved that. But, and honestly, to be honest, some of the best moments for me are when I get to see people connect. And recently doing the whole crowdfunding I discovered that it wasn't about the money. I could have been asking for $1 million. I could have been asking for $10. It didn't matter. I got to see almost 100 people come on and support me. Yeah. And that for me just was even better than standing on a stage, opening for a big band, because those things, of course, I want those to happen. Don't get me wrong, because I love that, put me on but almost any stage. So for me, also just realizing that it's really hard to do what we do and to stay motivated all the time. And there's a lot of ups and downs and loss. It's feast or famine. And it's also, emotionally feast or famine. Some days you're just on top of the world and you think that like you're just doing so great. Yeah. And then the next minute you're just like, oh, am I supposed to do this? So the fact that I have to say, and I know I'm rambling, but hitting 100%, actually 107% on my crowdfunding campaign in the middle of a pandemic just showed the belief that I needed.
Absolutely.
Again,
the hope.
It wasn't about the money. It was about the people, because I don't care if I have one fan or 1 million fans. I am going to I'm happy to even have one.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that's where I'm at, I guess, in my perspective. So that's my success.
Absolutely. And I think it's cool when you have one person that's a fan of you that's not your mom, because I know my mom will be
Right?
my fan, but it's like,
and it still shocks me. I'm like, what? Listen to me? That's so cool.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Now, T, what would you say has been maybe your most successful moment so far, would you say, as a musician?
Yeah, I think I've been really lucky in the last year. The last year was full of really cool moments. The launch, that whole experience, winning that show and getting to, as a result, play some really cool shows. I got to play like a sold out crowd at the Bell Center, which was very cool. Like,
that's so cool.
Just those moments are amazing. Yeah, but I agree with Jaclyn where it's like, those are great. But I think, for me, like this last single that came out recently, Loser Part 2 with Rhea May, like, that wasn't with a big label. That was like an independent release, and it meant bringing a team together independently and applying for grants and funding and all that. And and that, like, I built a team around that release, and I had people help me build a team around that release. And to see everybody work so well together and see it go out so smoothly and be like, wow, like, there's not $1 million behind this, but we've pulled it off in a way that I feel so proud of. And I like everybody that I'm working with, and I feel like everybody cares about,
Project, yeah.
what the project is. Yeah. And that felt like really amazing to me. And I was like, and I feel like I understand. I couldn't do everybody's role by any means, but I have an understanding of what everybody's doing, and I understand what they're bringing to this. And I understand, I feel like I'm getting more and more to the point where I think my measure of success used to be like, oh, I'll get signed to a major label and I'll have 1 million followers or whatever. And now I'm starting to be like, my understanding of what's actually happening in my own career and creating knowledge and respect between myself, my team members, any other artists we work with, so that, there's just a precedent set of how I do business in my career, and that I will not be, a pawn to any major like company. That to me feels like a big success, and I'm proud of that.
Totally. I love that response. I think that's really, really cool. But that's kind of like your level of success is just connecting with others. And I think that's hard in the music industry for sure. It's hard to get that level of success. And I think a lot of people don't realize that, and they kind of take that for granted when they have it so good or so easy, right? Because you see these people like I guess Taylor Swift is the first person that pops into my mind, but they get screwed by their record label or like I can't think of another artist right now on the top of my head, but there's lots of them that have those problems. So I think it's like you said, T, it's really important when you get that amazing just opportunity that fits, and it's just really good.
Yeah. And you just realize that everybody's like a person, just
exactly.
And having a really good grasp on your career and knowing, like you said, T, like understanding what they do, but knowing that they do it better than you can, because you have to wear so many hats. You can't balance that all the time. That's
exhausting.
why however you build your team, if they're working for you, if you're just hiring them as a hired gun, whatever, whether it's a musician or a publicist or anything, it's really important, and that's inspiring, T.
Yeah.
Now, my next question kind of is like the opposite end of it. Is there anything you would have done differently if you could go back in time and start your music career again, or maybe go back a few years and maybe start earlier, like maybe Jaclyn would feel? Or what are your kind of thoughts on that, Jaclyn? If you could go back and do it again, or even have the knowledge you have now, what would you do differently?
Well, I honestly, because of the things that I've learned, especially in probably the last 4 or 5 years, about how the whole thing works. There was a time that, the whole like being famous thing was something I thought was so cool. And I'm not saying I don't want to be famous, but when you understand the industry and you understand, what it really means to be a working artist, then you understand that that's not really the goal. The goal is connecting with people. The goal is, finding those people that you can entertain and also inspire, and finding a balance with that. And also like family life. I'll tell you this. So, I met my ex-husband when I was 20, and we started having kids. And I did this all through being a mom. and also then going through a divorce, and well, not quite a divorce. I'm still technically married. I took his last name and I like it, but it's funny. He gets mad at me. He's like, "Are you going to change your name?" I'm like, "Absolutely not."
Yeah.
Like, I love this name. We're still good friends. But you know what I would do? I would say to my younger self that really get educated on the industry and understand, you know, what it is you truly want, and why do you want that? Like, why do you want that? Why do you want to be famous? No, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't want to be famous anymore. I want to wake up every day and write songs and make good music and connect with people. That's what I want now, and I wish that that's what I wanted, you know, 10 years ago
Back
differently.
then.
I found a way to do it, but I think that I could have actually been far more successful. But or I shouldn't say successful. I feel like I'm successful because I had to go through a lot. It's not like I didn't have the ability to go on the road, and you know, I had 2 little kids, and I became a single mom too. So for me, I feel like I am quite successful for where I'm at in my career, because I do as much as I can with what I have.
Absolutely.
And so I may never get to tour across Canada. At least not now.
No.
Can't leave New Brunswick right now, but anyway, you know, I feel like that, and I have had some wonderful things. I've got to learn from some of the most amazing people in Canada. I've sat in the same room with people who were Juno nominated. I got to shake hands with, you know, the VP of Sony ATV. I know people, and I realize how small the industry is, and how important it is to just be who you are.
Be a good
And if you
person.
connect with somebody who's really influential in a sense, and you just happen to get that, I think that's really cool. You can also work towards that, but understanding that all these people are just people, and I'm lucky enough to call some of them my friends.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
you know, but I guess that's sort of where I'm at with it. So and honestly, would I change anything? Probably. I just would have like taken this last 4 years and maybe placed it at the first sort of bit of my budding career, because again, I didn't have a family that was musical at all. Nobody even understands where mine came from. So I really fumbled my way through. And that's okay. I made a lot of mistakes. I probably tried to reinvent the wheel too many times. So I would say to myself, don't try and reinvent the wheel. Here are the resources. So,
use them wisely. Absolutely. And how about you, T? What's something, if you could go back, you would maybe change, or maybe not change?
Yeah. I think it's hard to know, because I think I started so young that I don't know like how much I could have done differently. I know that I wish things were maybe a bit different. I wish that you know, I think that the way that the music industry works sometimes, and especially with like young artists, is to put these like people just take advantage of you. They exploit your you know, whatever from in all kinds of ways, but they exploit oftentimes your naivety and your you know, your passion. And I don't think I could have done anything about that, because I was so young. Like you don't know, you know. But I think what I've learned, you know, that I will apply moving forward is, and I'm learning all the time, is how to kind of speak kindly and but firmly with people that you're working with or you're considering working with, about like your boundaries and your beliefs, and how to bring that through your work, you know, in a consistent way. And you know, and keeping in mind with yourself, like what is personal, appropriate personal and professional boundaries. And you know, you don't have to beat yourself up if you feel like you've been professional and kind as possible, and still, you know, it goes the wrong way, or someone you know, not beating yourself up, or just trying to, you know, while trying to see their side of it, of course, and be fair, whatever. But I just think, like, you know, asserting my boundaries and my beliefs, and asserting them across like the public brand of my work and in the private professional dealings, like that is something that, you know, I will continue to learn about and continue to figure out. But it's taken time, and you had to be burned a couple times and make mistakes a couple times to realize how important it is to prioritize.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. I think that's I think both of your pieces kind of advice to yourselves, actually. I think they're both really inspiring. I think boundaries are super important, like you said. So I think, yeah, that's really awesome.
Well, even having boundaries with yourself, like I think is important too, because as like I said, as I started learning more about how things work a little bit more, and just learning that level of professionalism that you need, because I'm sure that I made a lot of mistakes along the way, but if you don't know better, you can't do better. Once you know better, you do better. So, it's forgiving yourself for making those mistakes too is really important along the way, because it was an experience that you learned from.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have one more question. It's kind of a fun one. If
Good.
you were to have a music biography that was filmed about you and your music career, who would you want to play you in the movie, and why?
Oh, that's good.
Do they have to look like us?
No. I guess not, no.
'Cause-
Just like your personality and really how they emulate you. Who would you want to emulate you if they could?
Sometimes I think Melissa McCarthy could do a good job of me.
I could see that.
Yes.
Totally.
She's
my gosh.
She's an amazing actor. Have you seen her in that
Yes.
movie about she commits some kind of fraud out of
Oh, identity thief?
Is it like no, it's not it's not a
Oh.
comedy. It's not a comedy.
Oh.
It's like a very serious a very serious sad kind of movie, and I forget what
No, I haven't seen that one.
It's so good. I'd never seen her play like a serious kind of role.
Yeah.
I can't remember. Oh, you know what she's doing? She's creating counterfeit letters from kind of historical figures or authors.
Oh, okay.
She's selling them to literary collectors and making all this money, but she's the one writing them, and they're frauds, and then she gets found out. And it's based on a true story, and it's so good.
I haven't heard that.
But she's
I gotta watch that.
I don't know.
I think that's a great choice, Jaclyn. I think actually I think that'd be perfect.
I'll probably come up with something else after this for some reason, because I'm just a big goofball. That's probably one thing that I don't know would that's where I connect with her, because I'm a big crazy person.
Amazing.
How about yourself, T? Who would you want to play you?
Well, I'm just going to this person because I've seen them in a couple of things, but there's an actor called Theo Germain, and Theo is in The Politician, which is a new Netflix show, and also in a show called Work in Progress. And they're a trans actor, and they're doing but we look the same. Like, they have a buzz cut, and we look we look similar. So I'm like,
that could work. Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. That's super cool. It's kind of a weird question to think about who could be you, but
what's your answer? Who would you pick?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's not a lot of actors. Well, actually, there probably is. I think I would pick. I don't think she totally looks like me, but Eva. What's her name? She's a French actress. Eva Longreen. You know who that is? No. Eva. I don't even know her name, and I want her to play me, but I don't even know her name.
That girl.
or I have to think of someone else with like very dark hair.
Who's the girl that played in the Hunger Games? Was that Jennifer?
Jennifer Lawrence. Hey,
Jennifer Lawrence.
Cool.
There you go.
That would be cool. It's the braids.
Maybe it's the braids.
I was just gonna say. It's totally throwing you off, isn't it?
I love the braids.
Yeah. I've been told I look very like Lebanese for some reason, but I'm just French, so I'm trying to think of like French actresses that would relate. But I think I would say her. I think her name's Eva. I'm gonna go with Eva I hope I'm not wrong. Eva Green. We'll go with that. Thank you for asking. I appreciate it. So that was actually our last question for the day. We're unfortunately out of time, but we're so lucky to have had you all on. If you guys are at home watching this roundtable with Vienna Whyte on YouTube, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell button. We do post 2 shows a day, Monday to Friday, so there's lots of content to watch and stay looking forward to. Or if you want to hear this conversation via podcast format, just search up the Vienna Whyte podcast, and there you will find us. Now, before we head off today, could I get you both to say your artist name and where our audience can find you on social media? So, T, can you start it off?
Yeah, my name is T.Thomason, and you can find me on socials with the handle Sweet Baby T with no vowels. So it's SWTBBT across all socials.
Awesome. And did something just click for you, Jaclyn?
Yes, because I never understood why that was your Instagram name. So now I know. Thank you,
That's
T.
awesome. And Jaclyn, where can our audience find you?
I'm all over the internet in a good way. You can find me at JaclynReinhartOfficial.com for my website, but all of my socials are either Jaclyn Reinhart or Jaclyn Reinhart Music.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, have a great day, everyone. It was great meeting you. Thank you so much.
Great to meet you too.